Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another week here at Wired Differently. We've got me, Christina Blue Hooper, your resident business designer, Victoria Queen V. Caldwell, your fractional COO and expert at all things people system, Mindset Melanie Branch, your expert at taming your brain and getting it to do what you need to do so you can, keep on growing those businesses. And special guest today, one of our mentors at the Academy, Danielle Wilson from Client Success Experts, your expert at getting your brain to do sales. Something I know a lot of us have, struggles with in so many ways. So that's actually our topic for today. Is talking about more clients, less hustle, and the impact between marketing and sales for better conversions. So that was a big introduction with 4 people to introduce this time, y'all. I got to catch my breath now. All right. So let's dive in with our first question, right? Because I know we've got several of them. I know sales is something that a lot of people really struggle with, especially in the neurodivergent community. We have issues with peopling. We have issues with people pleasing. We have so many things that come to the table really strongly. So our first one is like, how do you know if your marketing is even attracting the right leads, right? Like, because it might not even be a sales problem. Right. It might be an intake problem in the beginning. So how does that show up in sales?
Well, the first place it shows up is objections. Truly, that's truly the first place that it shows up.
That would make sense.
Sorry, go ahead, Victor.
No, I said that would make sense. I hadn't really thought about that.
I know. I hadn't even thought about that either. So I'm like, the very first answer, like the first word is like,
yay, I've blown your minds already. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, like as soon as you say it, my brain is racing through all the implications of that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, 100%. It would show up in the objections as the first place.
Absolutely. And it's also the first indicator that your sales and marketing team are not aligned. Sorry.
No, that's good.
If we're going to talk alignment,
that's
which
a hot
is kind
damn
of a big
moment,
topic,
right?
Like, yeah, it is. Yeah.
We can tell that you have a business partner who helps with some of this kind of stuff and that you've put a lot of thought into. Yeah, damn.
Doing it for 35 years helped as well. So
yeah, but it's like it's rare to see salespeople that really understand what happens from the marketing standpoint, which is part of why I love that we have you as a mentor, because it's not something a lot of salespeople pay attention to. Sales and marketing are usually at odds and kind of fighting with each other. And I know we've talked about this on campus and stuff before, because a lot of times in sales we're overpromising, or in marketing we're overpromising, and then sales is going back and being like, cool, and then fulfillment's going, what the hell were y'all both thinking?
That.
Right, like that's usually what's happening.
Absolutely, it's a trinity, and all 3 need to be on the same page together. The marketing itself, the channels you're going to use, what's the strategy behind the marketing? That's not a sales business. They don't need to be involved in that. But being able to identify who is the ideal person for this, what's the motivation behind why they're buying this. Market research is fantastic. I love market research. I will always promote market research, but it's incomplete. And the reason it's incomplete is because you're talking to people who are thinking about, well, what if I had that problem? Not, I have that problem and it's extremely painful right now. Where the salespeople are talking to the people who have the problem and it's extremely painful right now. So the information that sales can feed back to marketing to fine tune the messaging is so invaluable. And you really nailed it there, Christina, when you said that it's the fulfillment team that really gets the shaft in all of this. Marketing over promises. Sales then does the same thing. I just want to close this deal, right? Two conflicting. I want to drive a lot of leads. That's what marketing says. Sales says, I want to close a lot of sales and client delivers, but client experience, guys, what about results?
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of an important trinity to really be mindful of in terms of making sure that they're all on the same page, that they're all saying the same thing. That's a really important thing. And that they're misaligned when you start getting objections. If you're getting a lot of, I need to think about it, or I want to talk to my spouse, or that's too expensive. Like, think of all the objections. Oh, but your competitor this, like, it's about all of the 12 different reasons that people object to things. If you're getting a lot of those, if your conversion rate is really low, that's the first sign.
Mhm.
And by conversion rate, I do mean sales conversion, not lead to
To a
appointment.
conversion rate on a bunch of different areas.
There's like
Yeah.
4 of
So,
them. So yeah.
yeah, for people who aren't familiar with that, you've got people who are attracted to you. They come in, they visit like a website page or something along those lines, and they convert there. That's a marketing conversion. That's one of the first marketing conversions that we get. Whatever they convert into, there can be several more micro conversions along the way, like into other things, other freebies, other,
Yeah.
email newsletters, that kind of thing. At some point along the way, they talk to a human to buy the more expensive things. And whenever that happens, that's a sales conversion if they convert from there. So lots of them, even client fulfillment has conversions because
Absolutely,
they
they
can
do.
do upsells, they can do cross sells, they can get people to renew for another, 6 months or whatever that may look like. So there's conversions happening all along the way. And I know we're kind of talking about marketing and sales and fulfillment as different departments, and as you get bigger, they usually are.
Yes.
But these problems happen when it's one person doing all the jobs too, because we put our marketing hat on and we follow what all the bros are saying, and we're like, we're going to go do these strategies, and we're going to go market this way, and we're going to be on these social channels, and we're going to make these videos, and we need a hook, and we need a pitch, and we need a thing. And your marketing hat's solidly on at that point, and you're not even necessarily thinking about, well, what if when they book a call? Right? What are we going to do when they book a call? So you can absolutely have these problems as a solopreneur, as one person handling all 3 roles.
And you can have all of these problems as a solopreneur who's very experienced in business. As a person who's led sales and marketing departments, you still can have those problems, because it's really different when you're wearing all the hats and everything falls to you, and you're not just the visionary, but you're also the executor. Right. So I think that's something that really needs to be considered when we're judging ourselves.
Yeah.
Is that if you've come from a career where you did this and it was so easy, just remember that you had a team to execute then. It wasn't all on you. And so I think that one of the things that you can do to overcome that problem is start just creating better processes for capturing these things. Right? Like start keeping, I don't want to call it a diary, but why not a list, even on a fresh new notebook? Because who doesn't love one of those?
I know I have restricted myself from buying new notebooks. I have
so
my
not allowed.
and I have sheets of paper, and that is all I'm allowed anymore.
Yeah, I know. I
got a new one yesterday. I went to the doctor and she gave me a notebook. I was like,
yay!
The notebook that's going to fix it all.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. But no, seriously though, capturing, like, imagine, like I record my sales calls, always have, and I've done that for a long time, like as long as video capture has been an option. Even in brick and mortar scenarios, we had cameras available that we could record sales conversations so that we could dissect them. What went well? What'd you do really well? And what's the one thing you would change, right? Don't focus on what went wrong. Focus on what went right. Just learn the one thing at a time. You can't learn 12 things at once, no matter what we tell ourselves. Focusing on the one thing at a time. But by doing that, you'll just get systematically better. As you're watching it, as you're having the conversation, it may not occur to you the thing the person said that showed you that they either weren't ready, weren't a good fit. It may be like, I'm just so in the moment trying to have this conversation that by being able to go back and watch it later, you can actually now start to capture. You can like do a little bit of a critique on your own, right? Coach yourself, if you will. And by doing that, you now have this wonderful information that you can incorporate into your messaging. And my approach to objections is probably a little bit unique in that my approach is prevention. Prevent
I'll put
them.
this question up because it sounds like we're handling that direction.
Oh, are we? Okay, sorry.
No, cool. I love it. It means that we properly anticipated where your expertise was going to land.
There you go. But by preventing them, you then get to a point closer toward the end of the conversation where now you're actually presenting your recommendation, you're making your offer, and you can frame it in a way that says, we've talked about this, we've talked about this, we've talked about this. And now that you see the evidence laid before you, not these words, but I'm like paraphrasing, now that you see the evidence before you, what do you think you should do? What do you think is the most logical next step? And it's all about putting it back in their corner, right? So prevention to me is about talking to the elephants in the room. Prevention to me is about, when they share something deeply personal, being empathetic to that and thanking them, showing some gratitude, thanking them for sharing that with you, because being vulnerable with a stranger, a salesperson, is difficult. It's not easy. So if you're setting it up makes it sound like you're manipulating. I don't mean it that way, because I'm against
We
manipulation.
kind of are a little bit ethically manipulating.
And
And Victoria framed this really well for me, because I get the ick when I feel like I'm manipulating, but like she framed it in a way that kind of it sank in for me really well. Like, if you have somebody and you know this is the best thing for them, you absolutely know it is. It's your job to help them make that decision.
I'll agree with you to an extent, but I think there's an element of people who are like, well, it's my offer. I know it's fantastic and I know it can help people. But if you didn't do the work to uncover that it truly will help them, then you're just being manipulative. So.
I love that clarification. I love that clarification. That is a very important one, because a lot of people don't. You're absolutely right. They're like, I believe in my thing. I believe it'll help all the people in all the world everywhere. And if they don't buy it, they're crazy.
Well, it comes down to the whole niching conversation again, too, doesn't it? Right? Like as you're trying to, I can help everyone, but you can't.
Yeah, you should.
And so just owning that you can't, that you've got to do a little bit of digging, you've got to have conversation, and you've got to build the trust. You've got to have them be willing to be open with you. So preventing objections is about, leading with empathy for a start, making this about them and what their goal is, not what your goal is. Your goal is to close the sale, make some money, right? Put another metric on the board, if you will. Their goal is to solve a problem that's causing them a lot of pain. Now, whether that pain is, I don't want to be fat anymore, whether that pain is, I just want to have a better relationship with my husband, whether that pain is, I need my business to have sustainable foundations to grow, no matter what the pain is to them, they wouldn't have come here if it wasn't hurting. And that's a really important thing to acknowledge, is that they're in a lot of pain. It's what motivated them to book the appointment. Most people don't waste their time on a call if they're not at least in the I'm researching solutions stage.
Yeah.
Right? I think of the buying process as, first thing happens, I become aware I have a problem. Oh, look at that. I've got this problem. Oh, look at that. I have this problem. Next thing you know, you're starting to recognize how it's impacting your life. What are the implications it's having? Life being, real life or business. What are the implications it's having on me? Oh, look, there it is again. And look at what it's doing to me. Oh, I'm working long hours. What do you do? I'm working long hours. Yeah, but now I'm not getting to see my kids play. Now I'm not getting to go out on date night with my husband. Now I had to, rush to get to my sister's wedding, whatever the thing is that it's impacting. Oh, I'm having a high turnover in my team which is very costly, obviously. So what's the implication comes next. You start recognizing what those little things are, the ways that this problem is having a more negative effect. And then you move into, okay, enough is enough. I need to start looking at how I can solve this. And you're in research phase. So first you've become aware, you've acknowledged, you accept. You've got to accept that this is a problem. You've got to accept that this isn't going to solve itself before you'll actually be ready and willing to do some research into it. And no matter what level of research you do, some of us are more analytical. We need to research the poop out of every possible
some of us
iteration.
Going down those deep dive rabbit holes and become like a quasi expert. And
that's what I was going to say. Non-institutional PhDs, right?
Yeah.
So, but before
I don't know any of those.
There you go. No,
never met a single person that does that ever,
never.
Right, Melanie? We've never met anybody who goes on deep dives. Not a single one ever.
Non-institutional PhD.
You capturing that one?
That's a writer downer. Yeah,
I remember that one.
Yeah.
I know that one's safe. As soon as I see her grab her pen, it'll be in that notebook forever. Yeah. She was pulling up stuff from like November.
I'm watching Nani with all the things she's writing down. I'm getting nervous, honestly. But then, oh my.
She's a mindset coach, not a therapist. You don't have to worry about what she's writing down.
Okay, good.
I only write it down because I have terrible working memory, and so when somebody says something, I'm like, I'm gonna want that later. I have to write it down, or I'll never be able to recall it.
Yeah, Katina's in the chat going, not me. I don't do deep dives on content, ideas, or topics ever.
That's awesome. But those 3 stages of kind of like becoming more ready to buy, because the final one is the action, right? Once you know what your options are, you've done some research, now you're ready to act. And it's usually somewhere between research and action that they're booking the call. Usually. Now, if your marketing has made a promise that actually isn't part of, and it could just simply be the way that they worded it. It could be that they omitted something, right? Like maybe, they said the price and they spoke about the great outcome because everybody likes to market to the thing you want to hear rather than the thing you actually need. That was right. Thank you, Melanie. If you're not marketing to the truth of what the outcome is that you provide, and you're mismanaging people's expectations, what's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of people coming onto sales calls looking for this thing that isn't actually what you sell. And so that's where those objections come up. So that's how sales can align better with marketing, by providing this. These are the objections you need to deal with in your content. And whether that's, print ads or your website copy or a landing or a sales page or social media posts or video trainings you're doing, like whatever it is, hell, do it in a podcast. Go on a podcast and talk about it. Whatever the method is, being transparent about it and managing people's expectations in your messaging is going to help you to avoid all of those obstacles once you get into the sales call. But I think that marketing also forgets that sales are having conversations with real people.
Yeah. And a lot of marketing doesn't actually have conversations unless they're doing actual strategic market research. Most of the time, we skip talking to humans to do marketing, and sales is the first time that actually happens. Right. And I want to point out something that you did, and I'm not even entirely sure if you knew you did it, but when you were describing those stages that somebody goes through leading up to a decision to buy, you did it from their perspective. You didn't do it from the salesperson looking at them. You did it from how they feel as they go through that process. And that is a critical distinction, to understand what that person's going through, right? To be empathetic to this awareness, this acceptance of what this is and the impact it's having on their life, to moving into that research phase and being brave enough to get on a call with somebody and have a conversation and be vulnerable. And like this whole time you've explained it from their point of view and not the salesperson's point of view. And I think that is a massive thing I wanted to point out.
I'm feeling embarrassed because thank you, because I don't deal with praise well, but thank you. But you know what? You've also validated for me that my approach is client-centric.
Yeah,
it is.
100%.
It's empathetic and it's client-centric. And you said it earlier in the conversation too, when you were saying that a lot of times the salesperson is looking at, they have goals. I need to close the sale, but they have goals. Is I need to solve this problem. I need to get out of this pain. Yes. And if we you remember the sales call I was telling Christina about the other day, and we call it these bro methods, but the thing is, what comes down to is they take the feeling and empathy out of it
entirely
and completely. And I was telling them until I finally I just wanted to see how far he was going to go. Because now, me being in this position, I was more interested in how he was handling the sales call than me actually. Because otherwise, I would have just been like, "Nope, I'm not interested. Thank you."
Right.
But I got on the call and I let them know that by the time going through all of this stuff, I finally said, "You know what? I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just flat out, no, I'm not going to do that right now," because nothing I was telling him, the reasoning, there was no empathetic reply. It was more like, yeah, but if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. Like it was almost threatening. And I was like, I'm not going to do it.
Oh,
You know?
that's gross. Sorry.
Yeah.
That is gross.
No, yeah, and it happens all the time. Like when we bought our house and we had people coming to do like install water softeners and that kind of thing, they would not move forward in the sales process unless it was me and my husband together meeting with them. And I'm like, you're not, and I flat out told them, I'm like, if you need me to come down here and participate in this, you're not going to get this sale. I trust my husband to make this decision. I have work to do. We've already had conversations. We've already agreed on what we want. We've already agreed that we are buying one. And I don't care which one we buy. I don't care who we buy it from. I am not the
And
least.
he knows our budget.
And I have meetings and stuff to go do. I have businesses to run, and he's got the day off. So, like, if you want this to happen, they're like, we're sorry, we're not allowed to do that. It's like, what?
You're
The
just
hell,
identifying
right?
a whole new. That in itself
That has
is
happened
a
a
problem
bunch.
that they're
Sales
not
process is
allowed
like-
to. That is a big
Yeah.
problem. There's no flexibility in that process.
That's not the only one that happened with when I bought my house. We
that
probably had 5 or
irritates me.
6 different contractors in different areas, you know, pest control, all kinds of stuff. That same thing, the exact same conversation. I'm like, y'all,
Give me their names.
I'm in marketing
I'll
and
go
sales
tell
as a
them.
business owner. I'm telling you, this is bad. You
It
shouldn't
is
be
bad.
doing this. This is a horrible idea.
They're trying to avoid the, well, I need to talk to my husband. Well, I need to talk to my spouse. So they
yeah.
just
Hey,
let's
you
just get 'em
can't
both
rush
on
a
the
sales
call.
call faster than the person's willing to. Like, you can't do that, and you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
People make decisions at their own pace, regardless of what your sales cycle numbers tell them that you should be closing in.
And you've just hit on a really important thing there, Christina. People process at different speeds. People process information in different ways. And they just may need some time to process. They may need to go and bounce that off their spouse. They may need to go and bounce it off their best friend. Frankly, it's none of your damn business.
Right.
Support them in that choice for themselves, because that's how they feel comfortable and confident to agree to go forward with you.
Right.
That you gave them that space to do that, to be an autonomous human being. It's just, to me, it shows a total lack of respect for the individual.
It is. And like, it's the same company, a totally different sales rep. I explained it, totally selling totally different products. I'm still dealing with him, very
Oh my.
patient. May not ever buy, but it's like, okay, in order to make a decision, these are the 4 people that are involved. This has to happen first. And then some of these people in here in this group process faster, but there has to be a consensus.
Absolutely.
Right. And so he just keeps following up, but he makes it, okay, this didn't happen. Okay, we'll just follow up later.
Yeah.
But he's keeping that relationship going
Good.
in a way that supports what I need to have done.
The critical.
The other one, complete opposite. Oh, well, I'm just going to send you an email about this, that, and the other, and look over it. And not,
Yeah.
really, like I have
And
nothing to do but read one of your
And
emails.
are you ready to buy my stuff? You ready to buy my stuff? You ready to buy my stuff?
If you don't buy my
That
stuff,
irritates
your business is gonna this and that and the other. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll take that chance because it hadn't
That's
happened
why I
yet.
won't answer these cold emails people send. Every time I put out a YouTube short, I get an instant email from somebody. Hey, I put together this Loom video for you and all the 50 ways that your YouTube videos suck and how we can fix it. And I'm like, yo, I have over 200,000 followers on TikTok, bro. I know how to grow on social media. I'm only got so much energy. I have my own fucking goals. If you tell me I have a problem, I have PDA autism. You're going to have way more problems now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I
And
hate
so I
that
just straight
tactic
up
of
tell-
leading with
Sure.
everything you're screwing up with and being like, so now can I fix it?
Like, get the
What?
fuck get out of here.
Yeah, that's why, like, even in
Oh.
my like names on social media, I use like emojis or I'll put something like weird in like my name because I can tell if they've actually read my profile and this is actual like thoughtful reach out or just
Never is.
they're sending the same message to 1,000 people. They pulled the data automatically. They didn't even look at it because who's going to sit there and bother to type emojis in my reach out? Like, no, thank you, not going to happen. And, you know, I mean, understanding where somebody else is coming from, too, I think as neurodivergent people, we are very acutely aware of this, even if we don't realize it, because the DSM-5 was written based on how other people experience us. So we get told how other people experience us without ever hearing the language about how we interpret it. Like PDA, as soon as Melanie said PDA, it reminded me of that. because it's like pathological
public
demand
display.
avoidance is how other people experience it. I ask you to do something and you say no, but Melanie reframes it as
Persistent drive for autonomy. We are not demand adverse. We are autonomy driven.
Oh, am I ever, buddy?
yeah. And see, that's a huge, I love that example, specifically as we're sitting here talking about sales, because the language shifted.
Yeah.
You know, if we were sitting here thinking about how we experience somebody buying from us, we're going to use the language that makes sense to us. So we're going to be sitting here like, if you're out there, you know, pathologically avoiding demands on you, then you may be PDA autistic. And they're going to look at you and go, the fuck I am.
My first thought was public display of affection. Maybe it's because I'm old, but yeah, that was like, absolutely not. Sorry. That is a no. No, thank you. Okay, that is
really like you and we're really excited, and then I might actually wag my non-existent tail.
Here's the problem, though. If we're going to talk just from like the psychological perspective, people that are demand avoidant or autonomy driven, I prefer autonomy driven. There is a huge subsect of ADHDers that identify that way. You know, the classic ADHD. If you tell me I can't do something, I'll do it. If you tell me I need to do something, I won't do it, even if I'm in the middle of it. That's a huge ADHD trait. And then PDA autism, persistent drive for autonomy, is like a subset of autism, but it's not fully recognized in every country and whatnot. And if we really want to get a little controversial, oppositional defiance disorder, I don't think is a real thing. I think it's just a very dysregulated PDA profile person. But again, neither here nor there. I don't appreciate the DSM either, because it doesn't help you, the person with the diagnosis. It says this is how far away from fitting into the societal norms that we need to keep up the capitalistic structure. But it's raining, so we won't talk about that. So if you really think about sales from the perspective of who are you selling to, if you're on a call with somebody that you have a good relationship with and you're telling them this is the thing that's going to fix it for you, and they're PDA or they have demand avoidance, they're going to want to get off that call just because you told them that this is what they need. So you've got to be real aware, like you said earlier, who's your target audience and what's the best way to speak to them. Because I used to email Christina, I would like screenshot it and I would send it to her. I'd say, this motherfucker did this. I don't even know this person. And she was like, don't give it any more energy. I'm like, you're right. You're right. But why do you think I need this? I don't even know. Like it used to take a lot of my time. So we've really had to work through it.
Well,
that was a reframe I had to learn to make too. Like, they don't deserve any more of your energy. Because when I said, why are you getting so upset about that? And he's like, I'm not getting upset about it.
I'm not mad.
But learning how to reframe things, right? Yeah. So that it actually makes sense. That's a huge part of it. And I know something else that we've hit on a few times, so I'll bring up this question, is that sales isn't fast. It's not always fast, right? Not like always. I've closed people on the very first call numerous times because they trust me and they can tell that I care. And I can tell you right now, it was a dumb thing to do. I should not have closed them on one call because they didn't understand what they bought. Right. Sometimes it makes sense to slow it down. But like the flip side of that is if we slow it down, we have to check in multiple times. And if we check in multiple times, is that going to be annoying, or like, what the heck do we do with that?
I think that you're really diving into the whole client journey here. And I think that you've got to look at the whole client journey. Well, you've got to look at the client journey as a whole, right? It starts with, knowing where do you expect people to come in? What information do you expect them to be consuming before they jump on that call? How are you qualifying them before they get on that call so that when they get there, what do they already know? What are they looking for? How do they think about things? How do they process information? And that's your qualifying process, which can be totally automated as part of the booking process. You don't have to have this long drawn out DM conversation with somebody in order to capture that. It could be they found you on Monday. They binged you on Monday and Tuesday. They clicked the book a call link on Tuesday night. But in that call booking, there are questions that you can ask, and that's part of your process. That's about helping you to understand where they are. And one of the things that I talk a lot about is not personality profiling, but persona typing. Generally, if you think about the Merrill-Reed system, for example, there are 4 types. I think DISC does the same thing, 4 types. If you really want to get into it, I had a branding a brand consultant at one time who literally went in and did the whole Myers-Briggs on me, before she did it. So if you really want to, you can make that part of your process if that helps you. To be able to understand who is this person in front of me, so I understand how best to communicate with them. Because I think that's an important thing, is we are the ones that need to flex our style a little bit when we're selling. We have to meet them where they are. So understanding a little bit about what some of the more basic elements are of those personas is helpful to you so that you can flex. So for example, I'm a really analytical person, but I'm also a driver. So I'm like a force to be reckoned with. I make decisions very quickly, but I make them very, very thoroughly. You can bet your butt I've gotten that non-institutional PhD before I ever booked this call.
Same.
Right? So
I know more about this than you do, Ron and the Home Depot. I know more about this than you do. Yeah.
Exactly. But if you think about, there are 4 different types, really. I am one of the weird ones that is somehow equally all 4. I am also that people pleaser who's rejection sensitive, who wants to make sure that the people in my life also buy into this decision I'm making. I am also the expressive person that, oh my gosh, don't get me started, or look out, you'll never have me stop talking. And I'll derail the sales conversation simply by pulling us down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. So understanding how to keep those different persona types on track and identifying which one is their primary decision maker.
True.
Yeah, primary
decision me is always going to circle back around, no matter where the rabbit holes went, no matter which way we went on the call. Analytical me before I say yes is coming back.
And analytical you may want a little bit of extra time to think about it, because no matter what the sales call is, no matter what the topic is, I became a hearing specialist when I was 48. So I went back to university, became a hearing specialist, worked in hearing for how many years did I work in hearing? I can't remember now, but that was my calling. It was genuinely my calling. And I was incredibly good at it. I don't say that about myself for very many things, but I was incredibly good at it. And dealing with people from different backgrounds, different experiences, different desires, different stages of life, all of those things, you have to really learn how to speak to them where they are instead of coming at it from you. Because just because you're an expert, it doesn't matter how educated you are. And I'm using that example because, there's university involved. Just because you're an expert doesn't mean you're experiencing what they're experiencing. You're not an expert in their experience. You're only an expert in the technical details of how you could solve this, the technical details of your product. So it really requires that you pay attention to them and flex toward them and adapt to their style so that you can present information in a way that they can take and process.
No.
I don't know if I went off track there and didn't answer, but
no, it was a good one. And I mean, it circles back into the niching conversation a little bit too, because that's a lot. Every single person coming at you has got different experiences, different stuff going on in their life, different problems, different goals, different everything.
Yeah.
But when you can niche down into the same type of people and niche your business down into not having 100 products, but having 1 or 2 things that you're really focused on trying to sell, that how much you're having to flex and pivot and expand yourself on every single sales call is less.
Yes.
Right. Like you still need to do it, but you're not going from 0 to 100. You're going from 0 to 10 because you've experienced most people in this situation and you're selling the same solution to most of the same type of people. So it's a lot easier to adapt and to empathize and to understand because it's not a curveball in every conversation.
Right. Agreed.
And that's the same thing. I mean, when we're talking about sales and everything, it's the same exact thing when it comes to leadership. It doesn't change because people process differently. They see things differently. They learn differently. And what most leaders do in steamrolling their team is they don't consider that aspect of, okay, you hire this person to do this thing that you hate. They're going to think and process differently from you. That's probably why they're going to be better at it than you.
I say that's part of what makes them so wonderful, though.
That's what makes it so good. But then you can't communicate with them if you expect them to think like you, but then do the work over here like they're supposed to do it. And it just doesn't work that way. And you have to meet them where they are. The very analytical ones need time. They're slower in processing. Mm-hmm. And the more, let's say, the creative ones move very quickly, and it just drives them absolutely nuts that they're moving so slow.
Yeah.
Well, and I can't.
You got to make that all blend together, right?
We're sitting here talking about how clients process differently in sales and in research and what they're buying, and how leaders need to understand that their team processes differently. And I just can't sit here. I just keep thinking we do the same thing ourselves, and we don't give ourselves this grace either.
Yeah.
We feel like we're not making decisions fast enough. We feel like, we're not, we're asking for too much. We're doing whatever, and we're not giving ourselves the grace in a lot of the decisions we're making.
It's true.
In our own businesses too. So it applies to yourself, it applies to your team, it applies to your clients, it applies to everything. To grace, understanding, acceptance is huge. And I think we kind of answered this question on the screen without fully answering the question on the screen. It's okay to follow up multiple times unless you're trying to be annoying.
Well, but here's an important stat that you may not already know. Did you know that it takes an average of 4 follow-ups before most sales will close?
That makes sense. And I mean, most people, the sales cycle isn't and shouldn't be one call, right? It should be multiple follow-ups. It should be multiple calls. It should be multiple touch points, whether those are with a person or whether those are with a system. Like, one of the really common things that we do if somebody's like high touch, low volume, like Victoria, and this is actually something she's building right now, is we put free audits into place so they can like self-analyze, self-prescribe, do some of that research journey on their own. Paid audits so that there's, a follow-up to that. So they've done some, now they want to do a little bit more. They want to get a little bit more professional diagnostic, a little bit more professional help, a little bit more exploratory thing, and charging for that. And then moving into, if this makes sense and this is a plan that you like, then let's see about executing it together, or let me refer you to somebody who's a better fit to help you execute, but we'll get you a plan together. Either way, right? Like that's the paid auditing.
It's built based on one, what's important in the way I work. One is that you have the information to make an informed decision for you.
Yeah.
Like what is going to feel best for you? Of course, that's the way I work because I want you fully informed, but I want you to feel good about your decision. And I want to help you in the best way that I can help you. And if the best way that I can help you is to send you to somebody that's a better fit, then that's me helping you.
Thank you.
But I like to give you that time to process, that time to make your own decision, but making sure that you also have enough information. And that means I have to listen. That means I have to engage. That means I have to hear what you're saying and what you're not directly saying. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, and I have to be present, which is why I don't understand creating all of this sales stuff without having conversations, because with real people.
Mm-hmm. You like talking to people though.
I do. I do.
Well, I would have Ryan Serhant, who is a very big person in real estate, has his own show, super adorable and handsome, if he ever watches. Anyways, Ryan Serhant talks about, he has built, because he's in real estate, so you build relationships over years. And there was one couple that he took on a tour of something, and they were like, no. And he sent that couple, each of them, an email every single week for a couple of years with like, here's a new listing every single week for a couple of years. And then finally one day the guy reached out and said, okay, we're ready to buy.
Right. It's about readiness quite often.
So, understand, if you're following up with people, be providing value and they'll have no problem with it. I send people TikToks or Reels or, any sort of little resource or anything like that. Hey, I thought this made me think of you. Da 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 da. La 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 la. What are you working on today? All that sort of stuff. Just keep up with them. Be interested in it. And then, if you're also double points in your marketing, showing every step of what it is that you do, everyone's going to realize, oh my God, there's so much work. I need your help. Like you can really set yourself up for success if you're addressing those common objections in your marketing. And then, getting them on the sales call, and they're just like, oh, you really are like you in person, like you are on social media. Let's go.
Yeah.
Now, Danielle, I have a question for you because Christina brought up something that, to me, it's if you're empathetic. I mean, like you said, I like talking to people. I like people. I'm interested in helping people. And from those who are more shy, I would say, of peopling like yourself, how do you address that? Because people like me and Melanie, we're natural people. So let's talk about the people who are not naturally people.
Well, first, let me tell you a story about being a child who would regularly get in mounds of trouble for coming home later than the prescribed time by mother, because, well, not only do I have time blindness, but I also was so afraid of strangers, I would not ask a stranger for the time. I'd rather go home and take the slaps. So I think that there's really something to be said. I am that shy. I still am, even coming here, knowing I was going to be talking to 3 people who are almost completely new to me. Like I've had conversation with Christina before. The conversation with Victoria was really more email, and I've never talked to Melanie before. I'll tell you, the nerves inside me coming into this, they were huge, and I still have to go and sometimes overcome that. I have high anxiety. I'm very, very introverted. I'm shy around new people, and I love selling. So I think that you've actually you've hit the nail on the head there, Victoria, about understanding your motivation behind why you do this thing and why you need to sell it. Because it really is about helping people. And if you genuinely have a heart to help people, I think it gets easier. But I think that the way it became easier for me was by building a structure around it. So literally having a full-on sales process. I do not script, nor will I script for anybody that I train. I've never scripted in 35 years. I think it's ridiculous. You will sound like me. You are not me. You need to sound like you. So we can talk about what's your objective in this moment. We can talk about what are the kinds of pieces of information you're looking to pull out in this moment. We have to make it sound like you. Because I think that it's when, I'm already starting to shake. I think it's when you can really root in to your own authentic voice, and when you can really connect with who you are and why this matters to you. And I think that that's what makes it actually easier. I've been in sales since I was 19. I've actually really been in sales since I was 17 when I started my first business. And let me tell you how terrifying that was, approaching Chrysler to be their person at their grand opening of the plant in my hometown. But I did it, and I got it. And I think that that's one of the things, that whole hold my beer, oh yeah, watch me. I think that's kind of part of it as well. Somebody said, you can't do that. You're too shy. I went, excuse me? Oh, it's on. Right?
Sounds a little bit
autonomy driven.
A little bit.
Danielle, can I just say really quick, because you said that your anxiety manifests in shaking, and I'm a very physical person. Everybody knows if you're on campus at the academy, you're going to see me, and then you're not, because I got to get up all the time. I got to move around. I can't sit still. There are 2 ways that you can really battle that. One is one of these really hard foam rollers where your feet go, because watch, I'm going hard I'm rolling around. You can't even tell right now. And the other one, you can take a resistance band and put it underneath the legs of your chair and put your feet like this on it the whole time. It helps the movement. It gets the wiggles out without people knowing that you're wiggling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mine sits here and rocks.
Because otherwise I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to have
Why do you think I wear the big sparkly nails? Because you can't see my hands because I'm stimming.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I've got just a plethora of different fidgets hanging out over here, from like stretchy ninjas to like fidget rings and bracelets and pens. And
I love it.
None of my pens have the little tabby thing anymore because those all died.
None.
I've been eliminated from using clicky pens. I'm no longer allowed to use those.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, having fidgets is incredibly helpful. There's nothing wrong in the world with having some fidgets around you. Melanie's the one who taught me this. An excess of mental stimulus requires a physical outlet.
It's why I brainstorm standing up normally and running back and
Yeah.
forth between giant 3M sheets of Post-it. I don't know if you've seen those, but that's how I usually brainstorm. But I think there was another piece to that, Victoria, that I wanted to address. I think that introverts who value really deep connection, in my approach, the way that I've developed my own sales approach over these last number of years, and it was as a result of a rebellion against the traditional tactics, which always made my skin crawl. And maybe that is because I'm introverted and shy, and those just seemed really aggressive. I am conflict averse as well, so I didn't want conflict. I didn't want my contacts having that conflict in the relationship. So my first goal is to reduce the relationship tension. But I think that when you're introverted, you have a natural curiosity and a natural pursuit of the depth that will make you outstanding at selling this way.
Wow.
I really do. And I think the other thing, and I've only come to recently understand that this weird thing that my family always made fun of me for as a child, I used to, let's say I was getting on a bus. My mother called it my stories. I would make up stories about the different people on the bus. I've since learned, not only did I actually start having conversations with people when I was older and realized, damn, I nailed that. I've come to learn that it's about the nonverbal cues that you're bringing in. And it's about being so in tune with those things, trying to micro adjust every little thing that you do, everything that you say to meet them where, right? I think that those two things combined, I call it being empathic. Maybe it is just an ADHD or an autistic mechanism, but being empathic and being intuitive and being introverted, it's like this magical combination that honestly, you will be outstanding at selling once you can get past this idea that you have to be somebody else.
Thank you. That's powerful.
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to maintain that mask all the way through to fulfillment. No. Right. So it's like if you're working with somebody for 6 months, a year, 18 months, if you put a mask on to get through the sales call, the person that they experience in sales and the person they experience in marketing and the person they experience in fulfillment are not the same, right? If I try and make like really high energy marketing videos, that's not the person they're going to get day in and day out working with me. So that doesn't make sense to bring that person out, put that mask on for my marketing. Right. And I think you hit on something too, that a lot of us, neurodivergent, introverted, especially people, we actually do. It is a little bit of an autism thing. We actually do process significantly more of our surroundings than our neurotypical counterparts. What is it like? Something like
bottom up thinking.
Bottom up thinking. Would that be the same as that I go to the end and do a work?
Here's the example of bottom up thinking. When a neuronormative person walks into a Starbucks, they go, "Oh, I know all these things. I know the smell. I know the people. I know the sound." They're connected to an experience in their brain. When we walk into a Starbucks, even if it's the one that you go to every single day, you've got to experience it from the bottom up. So what's on the floor? What's in the cases? What are these sounds? What are these smells? What are these sights? All of that. So we're taking in, they've measured it before. We take in on average 4 times more information. Just in 60 seconds, our neurodivergent brain is going to take on at least 4 times more amount of the information to process than a neuronormative brain. So overstimulation is so noticeable. I mean, it's so easy to get overrun. I mean, this is why my headband is headphones. So when I'm out in the world, I can listen to whatever I want. But if my ears are naked, even though I'm a very loud person, which is why people always give me shit about this, I am so easily overstimulated by sounds, overlapping sounds, too loud of a sound, a sudden sound, an annoying clicking sound. And I will go into like a nervous system overload or a rage or whatever it is. So being very protective of it because we just are picking up on more things.
And imagine that in a sales call, we're picking up every throat clearing, every gesture that people make, or
your dog chewing in the background.
Yeah. Like we remember you have a kid because they interrupted during the call. We remember that you have a pet because whatever, and we're picking up on every sigh, every hesitation, every facial tick. When we say, what the price is and you're trying to hold a poker face, but the corner of your mouth went, Like
Mhm.
we pick it up,
Yeah.
right? Which is kind of a superpower in sales that can be used very well or misused, like we talked about earlier.
You're absolutely right. And it's one of the reasons I actually, first thing I say to people when I am working with them one-to-one is, how do you want to be sold to?
Yeah.
Mm.
Because if you are trying to attract people like you, right? If that's the whole idea, people buy from people who are like them, right? They know, like, and trust you. It's because you have similarities. There's something alike. How do you want to be sold to? Now, how can we use that to inform how you're going to sell to other people? One of the things that I did is I really hate surprises. And I almost said the F-bomb. I really hate, how do I want to be sold to? Exactly. I really, really hate when there's a clear elephant in the room and nobody's speaking to it.
Mm.
I specifically hate that. I hate taboo subjects. I hate believing that I can't bring something up. So guess what I do? I throw it on the table immediately. It's the first thing we talk about.
First order of business.
First thing we talk about. I call it the empathy opening. And what it really is it's a method of acknowledging them and showing them, this is about you. This is not about me. This is about you. And it might start, like when I was in hearing, I would say a lot of people are reluctant to get their hearing tested. I'd love to know what motivated you to book this appointment. Guess what they start telling me? They start telling me about all the scenarios and situations they've been in where they noticed. So they're telling me about their awareness and their implications. Right? And then I say, I'm so grateful that you told me about that. Thank you so much. Or thank you so much for sharing that, whatever it is. Might ask them one or two questions, might joke along with them, might show them that I totally get that, or I've had a similar situation. And then I move into saying, okay, so we both came here with questions on our mind. So I wrote a couple of things down, and I'd like to share those with you if I may. I would imagine that before you came here, you put a lot of thought into some things like, how much is this going to cost me? Do I have to say yes today? If it was hearing aids, I would also include, can I just have one, or do I need to get two? Da-da. Are those some of the questions you've been thinking about?
That's a way to tackle objections head on.
Right? And when they say, well, yeah, I say it's okay. You know what? Those are normal questions, and they're big questions. They're going to factor into your decision in a really big way. Before we answer those, was there anything else that you've been thinking about that you want me to know so that we can make sure we answer those questions before you leave today? And then they start blurting out all of their objections. All of the reasons they've told themselves that they can't, shouldn't, or won't do this. They start blurting them out. And you know what? It's the most phenomenal, foundation for a sales conversation. Because now you're speaking to the things that really scare them. You're speaking to the things that really excite them. You're speaking to the things that are motivating them. And you're talking about, what their true experience was and how it's affecting them. So, let's say George tells me that he's really worried because he's losing team. Like, people are just leaving left, right, and center, and he can't figure it out. And it's keeping him up at night. Now his wife is getting really angry because he's never home. Right? We can speak to the things that he's dealing with as we're going along, because there should always be some kind of diagnostic going on.
Right.
Even if, right? Thank you. Always some kind of diagnostic. So you're getting some kind of feedback from them where you can present it later as the evidence that they have the problem. You're also at the same time getting them to acknowledge it. Because that acknowledgement part, so if they didn't already go through the acknowledgement piece, if they just went straight from I'm aware to I'm going to research how to fix this, you're helping them to understand the implications. And it leads into another tool that I also use. I call it the line. And it is a self-assessment tool. How ready am I to solve this? And what is standing in my way?
I
Wow.
love that you're demonstrating the difference between education and integration, because we've talked a lot about like your sales philosophies and how you believe things should be handled and the empathy and understanding of why people come into a sales conversation. And we know that they come into the sales conversation because they have questions they need answered before they can make a decision to buy.
Absolutely.
And understanding that is education. But the entire sales process you just mentioned is integration of that understanding. Right? Like you framed and structured the entire way you approach a sales conversation differently than anybody else I've ever heard of.
Same here.
Because you understand that their intent is to get their questions answered, and you can't move forward with a sales conversation until they have those answers. You
It's
can't cross the
empathetic.
finish line to paycheck without them getting those answers.
It's extremely empathetic. Like I just think that's so important, whether you're leading or dealing with people in general. Dealing with
Dealing
people.
with people in general.
Dealing with people and empathetic. And it shows, because the way I look at it is, whether you buy from me or not, it's not going to change my situation, because I truly believe that if it's meant for me, it's going to be. And if it's not, it's not going to be. So I don't have anything left just to do my best to support you and to
Right.
help you at best. And so when I go into it, I'm not worried about whether the sale closes or not.
Thank you.
I'm just not
That's
worried
so-
about that. I'm worried about, can I help this person? Am I the best person for this person? Can I help find them the best person? And the only way to know that is to listen.
You're going to make me cry.
Is to listen.
And the
when
business
you
designer
just
in me
frame
also
that,
points
I'm
out
like,
that
oh my
you
God,
guys have built services
I can
for
do
these
this.
people.
You
I
can.
can do this even better now, because now I got even more tools to be like, oh my gosh, that is a perfect way to make them feel comfortable and to also help them to open up so I can support them better. Now, I guess somebody else might use that and manipulate it in a way, but
Well, that makes me nervous that somebody could actually use it and manipulate it in a way, but it's not designed for
There's
that.
always
No, it's
somebody, and
not.
that's the
You
thing.
can't always
That's
be
it's not
authentic.
bad.
because
The
if you don't
execution.
authentically care, it's going to fall down somewhere.
Yes.
Because if you really care, they're going to feel supported. If you don't care, they're going to feel like,
No.
Very. Absolutely.
what
They'll be
you trying to
skeptical.
get out of me?
Right. Are you just trying to manipulate me?
Or you just trying to manipulate me?
Yeah. And I think that you said something there that now has just walked right out of my mind because 5 other thoughts crowded it. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to stop talking.
No, it happens. And I mean, I think it's something else that I see, especially in business design, is a lot of times product development ends up happening in marketing when it shouldn't, right?
Thank
Somebody
you.
sees that somebody's talking about, oh, I should have a webinar, or I should have an audit funnel, or I should have this thing. And they start with the marketing approach. How do I want to pitch this? How do I want to whatever? They don't start with, would my target client benefit from this approach? Would my target client benefit from this product? If so, how would I deliver it in a way that is going to actually work for them? What are the steps involved? How would I do it? Right? We have to start in product development and business design in the back end of the business, because we have to actually have that confidence that what we're doing is going to create transformation. Otherwise, we can't do anything we've talked about.
You're thank goodness I have Chanel. Let me tell you that, because as much as I think about those steps, that's her zone of absolute genius. Chanel and I became partners about a year after we hired each other, because in the process of helping her to integrate better marketing and selling, I was like, what this girl does is unbelievable. And then when I needed help to fix something, I went to her, and I came away from it mind blown, going, what you do is it's absolutely business transforming. Absolutely business transforming. She's like, well, what you do. So when she said to me, maybe we should, I was like, And then after a while, I'm like, yeah, I think we should. I think we absolutely should. So that's how this came to be. This started as two strangers on the internet having a coffee chat. That then, right?
That's kind of how the academy came to be. Like me and Melanie I was stalking Melanie relentlessly because like I needed mindset help. I was stuck on some stuff. Binged all of her content and more, thinking I could do it myself just off the free content because the free content was so good. And then I just broke down and I was like, Melanie, I need you in my life. I don't know what I need to give you. I don't know what credit card I need to throw at you. I don't know what product or service I need to buy, but I need to buy something from you because you need to help me. And yeah, then when we got done with that, it was just like, we need to do something together because I'm helping people
believe
design their businesses.
somebody said, I don't want you to not be a part of my life anymore.
Yeah, there we go. That was the wording. It's like I'm helping people design businesses, but no matter how good the design is, if their mindset gremlin got in the way, they couldn't execute on it. And we continue to expand on that because so many of these things that somebody's an expert in are relying upon another thing, right? I can design it, but if your mind won't get on board with it, you can't move forward with it. If you can't hire a team, you can't scale it. If you can't sell it, then you're not going to be able to get anywhere. If you can't fulfill it, if you can't take care of your body, if you can't take care of your mind. So like all of our mentors at the Academy came into being because we all share, as you're seeing amongst the four of us, a passion for people. And we understand that entrepreneurs need all of us, and trying to piece us all together is overwhelming. So when you can go into one place and get a little bit of all of it and then go deeper with individual mentors as needed, that's what most people need. That's what the Academy. See, you got to have that mission. You got to have that heart. That was my big mission, is to create a business school where entrepreneurs can succeed faster and easier with the support and everything that they need in one spot, even if they don't know they need it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Even if they don't know they need it yet. And sales is a huge one. Having somebody who understands introverted people, who understands neurodivergent people, and can help you figure out how to work with your superpowers and everything that your brain is doing is so incredibly important. So as we're wrapping up, I want to invite you to come join Danielle next week and learn even more about this. So head over to neurospicyacademy.com/events, where she's going to be diving even deeper into all this surface level conversation that we've been having and actually teach you what it looks like in practice. And you get to join us on campus with our other mentors and our other students. So come on over. And I'm going to say what Katina dropped over here. What I'm learning, community is intentional, and so is sales.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we've done over there. So we are about to head over to campus to run a co-working session, as always, every single week. I'm a few minutes late. Good thing our students love us. All right. We will be there in just a few minutes. Everybody else, head over to neurospicyacademy.com/events. Join Danielle next week on campus, and we will see you again next week, guys.
Thank you.